La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah.
Auzubillahi minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, welcome to the program, The Muslimahs Voice. On today's episode, we shall be discussing educational empowerment for Muslim women. Education is an important pillar of individual and societal growth. It's a concept that introduces humans to the unknown and makes the sojourn on earth meaningful. However, according to the UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report in 2021, the literacy rate for Muslim women is 51.9%, which is smaller than that of all other religious groups. Do Muslim women have rights to education in Islam? How can Muslim women be empowered educationally? On this show today, we shall be interrogating key concepts of access to education, cultural context, religious community support, global perspectives, and the role of technology in advancing the education of Muslim women. Joining me in the studio today to discuss this important issue are Sister Aisha Agbaje, an urban health researcher at the Nigerian Institute of Medical Research. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Also with me is Sister Ahmadul Mujib Ahmad Sadiq, an Hafidha, a law graduate and a Quran tutor. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for joining me in the studio today. They both will be sharing their thoughts and views on today's topic of discussion. But before we start the discussion, let's listen to public opinions about today's topic.
Education is an empowerment because no matter where you go, as long as you're educated, as long as you're an illiterate, as long as you're a literate person, it always shows in the way you ask, the manner, the things how you get things done. You know, you see, even tailors nowadays, people that sew. If you see an educated tailor, you know that yes, this person knows what he or she is doing. It shows in the way they act. So I feel education is an empowerment.
Education will help you develop your talent, your knowledge about things. Okay? There are some people, they are not educated, but inside them, they know that if I were educated, I would have done better. So education will help develop a woman.
Education empowers anybody, men, women, children, adults, and young ones. Remember, the Prophet told us that you should seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave.
The Old Islam said, train a boy, you have trained just one person. When you train a child, then you have trained a nation. The same thing goes to a woman. If you train a woman, she will train her children, and the children will become a community.
Knowledge can be inside the classroom, can be outside the classroom. As long as you are knowledgeable, you can perform any role given to you creditably. Knowledge is not questionable, or its acquisition is not to be underestimated.
A woman that is educated has more advantage to the one that is not educated. They may have the same talent, or you see that one that is educated will develop her talent more than the one that is not educated.
Women can be empowered. I feel like education is the foundation of every man's success. You can't just be successful without having a prior education, a primary education. Those are very, very necessary stuff. Education is very necessary stuff.
You know, when women are empowered and equipped with the right literacy programs, vocational trainings, and even online and distant learning, opportunities for them to learn, they're able to improve their self-confidence. They're able to even acquire skills that can make them financially independent. They can be able to be confident, and it can even reduce inequality.
Personally, as an engineering female, people are coming up. We see different things about, maybe because in the engineering field, we have like a male-dominated field. But still, I feel people are coming up, organizations are now coming up to support women in, you know, in these fields, in education, basically. So I feel we are coming up. Though we are not yet there yet, but we are getting there.
In the society, well, if we're talking about Nigeria, I don't think enough is being done. But maybe outside some other countries like, you know, the US and stuff like that, maybe they're trying their best in empowering women in education. But in Nigeria, I don't think so.
If we have women that are literate, we can as well organize literacy program for them, like the evening classes. Even some of them that are married, we can encourage them to further their education. We shouldn't discourage them by saying kitchen is the end of a house and housewife. We should let them know that they can as well still go ahead and finish and continue with their career.
Yes, I see, you know, programs, trainings here and there, but I believe that there is more ground to cover. So yes, they are making improvements, but there is more that can be done for women to be empowered through education.
Welcome back, dear viewers. We have listened to people's opinion about education, which leads me to ask Sister Aisha Saiba, what is the importance of education and its empowerment to women?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Education is a process of acquiring knowledge, skills, talent, attitudes, and other characters through learning. It can be in form of training, or teaching, or research. And while empowerment, on the other hand, refers to a process of gaining or using the knowledge to take control of one's life or giving authority to the use of that knowledge. That is what empowerment is about. And in Islam plays a very fundamental, sees educational empowerment as a fundamental principle that supports personal growth and development. And with this, we see that in the Holy Quran, Almighty Allah revealed in Quran chapter 3, verse 190 to 191, where he told us that in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and also in the alternation of the day, of the night and the day, indeed there are signs for men of understanding. This shows that in Islam, education is very paramount. And Allah, through this verse, told us that we need to reflect and have analysis of different signs of Allah in His creations, as well as in our own lives ourselves. So with this, educational empowerment in Islam fosters personal growth and development, whereby we are advised as humans that we should seek self-awareness. This will lead us to understand why are we created, what is our purpose on earth. And also, it also emphasizes the importance of critical thinking, because Almighty Allah wants us to reflect, ask questions, make inquiries, because it is through this knowledge that we can then use it to better our lives. Also, in Islam, educational empowerment also involves economic empowerment. With this, as Muslims, we can use the knowledge of education, even the knowledge of the Qur'an, to better our lives, secularly in our professional careers, or also in entrepreneurial pursuits. Because when we have this knowledge, we can use it to improve ourselves, thereby benefiting ourselves and the community we find ourselves. So another thing is educational empowerment helps with social change. It can be a way for us to advocate for ourselves. We can stand for what is right. We can question the norms or whatever we find that is not right after making some reflection, especially with the Holy Quran, because the Holy Quran serves as our guide. And we have been advised by the worldwide head of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Mansour Ahmad, may Allah be his helper. He advised that the number one precedence we should give to our faith is our knowledge of the Holy Quran. We should give precedence to it, and it should be the guiding light that we use in our different endeavors. So with this, educational empowerment also helps us to make informed decisions, because if you are not educated, how we would know that, okay, this is what is right for me to do at this time, and this is what I'm supposed not to do. So, and the Prophet has been a beacon of light, has become a beacon of light to us by guiding us to see that even through his lifetime, lifestyle and in his lifetime, it can be seen that education was so paramount, as even we see in the Sahabas and also his wives. So as Aisha, radiallahu anha, she was an example of a woman that was educated spiritually and also in other aspects of life, because she was involved in some of the activities of the Holy Prophet Sallallahu.
Jazakumullah for that answer, Sister Aisha Sahiba. Listening to the answer that was given, Sister Amatu Mujib Sahiba, what can you say, or should there be a limit to the level of education a woman should have?
The first 5 verses that were revealed to the Holy Prophet ﷺ reads, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. It translates to, O Muhammad, read in the name of thy Lord who created man from a clot of blood. Read, and the Lord is most generous, who taught man by the pen, taught man what he knew not. This connotes that the very basis upon which Islam was built is knowledge and education. And as seen in Surah Zumar, chapter 39, it says, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِي الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are those who know equal to those who do not know? إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Verily, it is those who are endowed with understanding that will take heed. Now, discussing whether or not there should be a limit to education of women in Islam. There are several traditions of the Holy Prophets that entrench the importance of education. And the one that tops the list for me is the one that states, طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. Seeking knowledge is compulsory on both Muslim men and women. Muslim men and women. It did not say on men. And then, in another tradition, it says, seeking knowledge is from cradle to grave, meaning that it is a continuous thing. You have to seek knowledge right from when you're small, throughout your existence. It is a continuous thing. There is no limitation as to what you can learn. There are no barriers. And then the Prophet ﷺ again was reported to have said that whoever raises a male child has trained one person. Whoever raises a female child has trained the whole world. Meaning that a female child will be the one that will grow into a woman and then raise her kids. Yes, women are supposed to be at home and raise the kids. I agree, 100%. But what do we do? Do we just have to feed them and clean up messes? Are we just supposed to be at home as figureheads? No. We are our kids' first teacher. It is whatever you know. You cannot give what you don't have. It is whatever you know that you impart on your children. And the discussion around limitations are just a mirror of societal norms. In some countries of the world, basically Africa and Asian countries, what we see from ulemas, Islamic scholars, what we see from them is misrepresentation and misinterpretation. They abhor this knowledge to themselves because they do not want people to know exactly what their religion is. Women do not even have access to their rights. They don't know their rights. And they abhor this knowledge based on their own insecurities. If women know that they have a right to divorce, they have a right to say who they want to get married to, they have a right to education, they have a right to acquire properties, they have a right to inheritance. So abhorring this knowledge means that they do not want people to know. And then they let people wallow in their ignorance, right? If Hazrat Khadija, radiallahu anha, was not knowledgeable, she would not be able to amass that much wealth to help her husband in his cause, right? So there is no prophetic tradition or scriptural evidence that abhors or limits a woman's right to education. Any limitation or discussions around limitation is just a mirror of our own societal norms.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sister Amatu Majib, for that answer. From what you stated, now we understand that any limit whatsoever or any discussion about limits pertaining education or empowerment for women should not even be encouraged. Which leads me to also ask the question, now that we understand that education should be encouraged for women, what are the different types of education a woman should have?
There are several types of education a woman should have. The number one type is Islamic or religious education. This involves Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic ethics, Islamic theology, and that's the knowledge of God. And with this knowledge, the crown of it all is the knowledge of the Holy Qur'an. This shows that the number one purpose Almighty Allah created us, as I mentioned in the Quran, is that He created man and the jinn to worship Him. And with this, we know that we can't worship Allah if we don't even know who Allah is. And we can't even know our purpose on earth if we don't know why we are here. So the first thing a Muslim should do, not even just Muslim women, is to understand what our purpose is here on earth. And the Holy Quran serves as the guide and the bedrock of all teachings. And if we don't study it and understand what the teachings are, we can't use it as a yardstick for our lives. So the first knowledge we should seek should be the knowledge of the Holy Quran, as well as Islamic morals, Islamic ethics, because this guides our character and interaction with ourselves. And the Prophet has shown us, even with his lifestyle, that no matter who we are, the Quran should be what we should look into before we do anything with our lives. Then the formal education will be the second form of education, because this is the health, and what we use in the modern world here today is the secular and formal education. If we have the knowledge of that, our purpose should be that if you are going into medicine, education, humanities, law, and the likes, what should be our paramount purpose or aim or goal should be that we want to acquire that knowledge to better Islam, to better ourselves and our lives. Because if we don't do that, how are we going to say, okay, this is the impact Almighty Allah wants us to make on earth? Because even in Islam has, over time, Islam has faced so much extremism with the different global propagandas that's been prepared by Islamic extremists. So this shows us that as a Muslim woman, our goal should be that we are going into the world to get this knowledge to better Islam. Then we should build ourselves to the point of building the knowledge base so much that if there's any allegation passed against Islam or anything that we feel we could stand up against, we will be confident enough to boldly write about it or do something about it. According to the Holy Founder of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, he emphasized the importance of why Almighty Allah has sent him. And the main reason is to revive Islam. And we can't revive it. He made us understand that we can't revive Islam if we don't understand the teachings. And the teachings of nowadays is different from the war against Islam of the olden days is different from the war of today. The war against Islam of today is about the extremists and the different allegations standing against Islam, especially on the aspect of women, saying women are subjugated, women are not liberated. All this shows us that we can't fight it if we don't have knowledge. And we can only fight those propagandas if we ourselves equip ourselves with knowledge of Islam. And with this, it shows that having the knowledge of the secular world is also important, as well as the Islamic education. Then the third one I will talk about is the vocational education or training. There are so many vocations. We have the arts and the crafts. The arts can be visual, painting and the likes, while the crafting can be things we can do with our hands, creativity arts, or relating to maybe cooking, anything relating to the home or the house or the household activities. So this shows that it's apart from the normal education, as Muslim women, we should endeavor, no matter how little, familiarize ourselves with all these skills, because if it is just the normal creative arts, we should do something with our hands so that if whatever economic situation we find ourselves, we're able to thrive and be confident in leading a good life. So a Muslim woman should not have any excuse to say, okay, I can't further my education because I am married. It even should be your goal that no matter how little, you should increase in your knowledge, because we should seek knowledge from cradle to grave. And it shows that we should have continuous education, because it is what we know that we're going to impact.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sister Aisha Zaiba. Dear viewers, if you're just joining us, this is the program The Muslimah's Voice, and we're talking about educational empowerment for Muslim women. We have talked about education. We've talked about education being an empowerment for Muslim women. We've talked about the limit of education, which, as was discussed earlier, that there should be no limit to education, especially for Muslim women. But I also would like to ask, we've talked about education, we've talked about limits. So, Sister Amatumejib Saiba, can you talk about education as a legacy of the Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, especially pertaining women?
As I said earlier, the basis of the message of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is knowledge. And it is seen in Qur'an 34, Surah As-Saba, where Allah said, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا كَافَةً لِلنَّاسِ بَشِيرًا وَنَذِيرًا. And we've not sent you to the entirety of humans, but to be a glad tidings bearer, a bearer of glad tidings, and a warner. That means that the message is two-sided, and it encapsulates teaching. First, it's to tell us that if you do this and that, these good things will happen to you, a bearer of glad tidings. And if you do not do this, if you do not do that, this will happen, a warner. And then the advent of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it came at a time when ignorance was on the high side in Saudi Arabia. Talk about infanticide, marginalization of women, alcoholism, slavery, and what have you. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, through his teachings, ended infanticide. Like, how would you give birth to a female child, and because it's a female child, you think this is a weaker vessel, we have to bury her alive? I mean, that is the highest level of ignorance. So through his teachings, he ended infanticide. He granted on women the highest level of rights, bestowed the highest level of rights on women, giving them explicit right that these rights and that rights, you have them in Islam, right? So we can see that throughout his life, it teaches, it taught, right? It taught people that this is right, this is not right, this is barbaric, this should not be done, right? And then a lot of traditions of his have entrenched the importance of knowledge. He said that utlubul ilm walau kana fi sin, you have to seek knowledge, even you have to go as far as China. After the Battle of Badr, the prisoners that were held captive, the Prophet ﷺ made them to teach people what they know. I mean, now, this is not about Islamic knowledge. If we're bringing in captives to teach people what, I mean, people already know about Islam, right? So whatever they are teaching them, it's outside the scopes of Islam. This further tells us the importance of knowledge and education in Islam.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sister Amatumejib, for that answer. Now I understand clearly that, yes, education is not just for all, especially for Muslim women, because we are the ones to, guide the next generation on the path to Islam, to Al-Jannah Firdaus. We've listened to our guest talk on education. Now, I would like to let us listen to a guidance of the beloved Huzur, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, on the importance of educating women.
Islam says that there's a distribution of labor. Men have these duties, women have these duties. Women should take care of their houses. But at the same time, they should be well educated. This is why among Ahmadis, our ladies are more educated than men. The literacy rate of women, Ahmadi women, is more than the men, because they are going to raise up the next generation who is going to work for their nation. So, if generations are trained well, they can help you. You see, you were asking that how can we reform? If our women are educated and they raise their children in a way that infuse honesty in them, and let them understand the importance of honesty and the service and sincerity towards their nation, how can they serve their country, how important is the service to the nation, then at least the next generation can bring some reforms and improve your country. Otherwise, with this present generation and the present set of mind of our leaders, we cannot reform. And you cannot say that your countries can ever develop.
Welcome back, dear viewers. We have listened to the guidance of the beloved Huzur, the worldwide head of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad. May Allah be his helper. We come to the end of the discussion of the topic for today, but I would like our guest to leave us with a final note, starting with Sister Aisha Zaiba.
I would want Muslim women to get community support groups or community support networks. This will help with guidance and mentorship, as well as creating a sense of belonging, because we can't do life alone and we need support of our sisters or people that had gone far ahead with us on any level of our lives to guide us. So that's an example of what Lajna Imaila community stands for. We are there to support each other and also build ourselves up. And women should have work-life balance initiatives, such as policies that will support women, especially Muslim women as well, even other women too, especially on childcare and support, as well as career-wise. Because if you have this kind of support in which I know that my number one primary duty is to take care of my family and my children, or good hours, for instance, with the rise of the remote and hybrid work, I could take up opportunities that will enhance my career. At the same time, it won't affect my home. There are so many free online learning platforms that we can go, learn more about maybe it's our field or business-wise, entrepreneurial-wise and all. Then we can also go online to alislam.org, which is the Ahmadiyya website, to learn more about teachings of the promised Messiah and also the teaching of the Prophet Sallallahu. Then we can also use this avenue to deepen our knowledge of the Holy Qur'an, because if we don't have, we can't use what we don't have. And at the same time, the aspect of representation and advocacy would be that whatever we have that we don't use, even when the Prophet said that we'll lose it. So it is incumbent on us that any knowledge we have, we should be able to stand up against what is wrong. We should have advocacy opportunity of standing up for other women in our community.
Sister Aisha Zaiba and Sister Amatu Mujib Zaiba, what will be your final note?
Well, I'll draw my conclusion from the guidance of the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, and he's lectured about us steps on how women can empower themselves. And the first one is giving precedence to faith over worldly affairs. We should understand that our purpose of life is first and foremost to worship Allah, above all other things, to worship Allah. If we understand that, then we will not deviate. The second one is that we should have the knowledge of Qur'an, as it is what would let us have the proper tarbiyah, proper knowledge of tarbiyah, of how we should behave, on how we should do things. The religion has not in any way limit us. We should not limit ourselves. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya. the scholars are the narrators of the prophets. And that is a very, very great achievement. If you are a narrator of the prophets, so if you're not a scholar, you do not know anything, how then do you want to narrate the prophets?
Jazakumullah khairan, Sister Amatu Mujib Saiba, for that answer. And I do want to appreciate you both, Sister Aisha Saiba and Sister Amatu Mujib Saiba, for joining us in today's program and sharing your knowledge of wealth with us. We have listened to our guests talk about education empowerment and the importance of education to Muslim women and how to use it to empower themselves. We have heard the different types of education for women, which borders on Islamic theology, formal education, vocational skills, financial literacy, and vocation and civic education. Dear viewers, this is where we draw the curtain on this episode of the Muslimahs Voice. Join us again next time when we bring you more interesting topics. For questions, comments, or inquiries, kindly email us on africa@mta.tv. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
La ilaha illallah, illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah.